Miranda, are you really going to leave Anthony behind and go abroad? In the quiet cafe, Miranda put down the spoon in her hand and looked at her astonished friend across the table, her tone calm and detached. I've already divorced him. Divorced? Hearing such explosive news so abruptly, her friend Lucy was utterly shocked. The next moment, she was indignant on Miranda's behalf. Anthony actually agreed. You've been so good to him these past 3 years, even a stone would have warmed up by now. Does he really have no feelings for you at all? Miranda smiled slightly, a glimmer flashing in her eyes. Actually, she wasn't sure if he had agreed or not. After all, half a month ago when she gave him the divorce agreement, he had signed it while answering a phone call, then hurried off without even listening to what she had to say. He never brought it up again after that. Now, just half a month more, and she'll get the divorce certificate, then she'll be free. Just as she was about to speak, a deep male voice came from behind them. Finished talking, the two girls turned their heads simultaneously and saw Anthony in a black trench coat, striding towards them with his long legs. Lucy was still immersed in her earlier anger and was about to step forward to demand an explanation. Anthony, just now Miranda said she and you are div. What brings you here? Miranda soothingly patted Lucy's hand, shook her head at her, and timely interrupted the conversation. It looks like it might rain later, so I came to pick you up on the way. Miranda then smiled, said goodbye to Lucy, got up, took her bag, and left with him. On the way back, the rain pattered softly, but inside the car, it was completely silent. Facing the wife he had married by a twist of fate back then, Anthony parted his thin lips slightly, wanting to speak several times, probably to find some topics, but then he remembered he hadn't been home for half a month. After a long silence, he finally spoke, as if remembering something. Miranda, what was that document you asked me to sign half a month ago? It's been so long, and only now you think to ask. True, he's been busy revolving around Martina all this time, so why would he care about such trivial matters? Miranda twitched her lips and was about to speak when Anthony's phone rang again. Anthony, I've had too much to drink, my head hurts so much, can you come pick me up? Hearing the slightly coquettish tone on the other end, Anthony gripped the steering wheel until his slender knuckles turned white, and his expression suddenly darkened. Martina, I've told you many times, I'm already married. There was a moment of silence on the other end before the voice replied, so what if you're married? I was supposed to be the bride at that wedding. This indifferent tone angered Anthony. After 3 years of marriage, Miranda had only ever seen his cool and restrained demeanor. This was the first time she witnessed him losing control. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching loudly against the pavement. Did you come or not? The other end of the phone suddenly fell silent. A moment later, the voice on the other end became somewhat choked up. Sorry, I won't bother you again. Soon, the call ended, but Anthony's expression didn't improve. Instead, it grew even darker. His fingers tapped on the steering wheel, and after a long while, he finally gave in completely, typing out a few words as if resigning himself to fate. Send me the address. After seeing the address sent from the other end, he turned his head with a face full of apology. Miranda knew what he was going to say and spoke first. If you have something to do, go ahead, I'll just take a taxi back. Watching her open the car door and put up her umbrella, Anthony ultimately felt a bit guilty and said softly, once I'm done, I'll come back to keep you company. Miranda nodded. She stood in the rain, watching the figure of him driving away swiftly, complex emotions swirling in her eyes. This is the 7th year Anthony she has liked him. She still remembers the scene when she fell in love with him at first sight on the basketball court. He was wearing a basketball jersey, made 10 out of 10 shots, and single-handedly broke through the opposing team's defense, becoming the iconic figure who electrified the entire court. The fangirls beside her were screaming, introducing him to the classmates who had just arrived. Anthony, a prominent figure at a university, comes from the City J. Barron family. Unfortunately, this campus heartthrob only has eyes for his childhood sweetheart Martina, and they've been together for many years. He would spend extravagantly for Martina, booking an entire amusement park to prepare surprises just to celebrate her birthday. He would swallow his pride and beg for reconciliation in front of the entire school, all because someone confessed their feelings to him and Martina threw a tantrum and deliberately blocked him. He would wait in the snow until his hands got frostbitten, even if Martina stood him up just to get a manicure with her roommate, and he still had no complaints. Throughout the 4 years of college, Miranda heard countless romantic anecdotes about Anthony and Martina. She always thought she would be like an NPC in a romance novel, witnessing them eventually end up together. Until 2 years ago, Anthony couldn't wait to marry Martina right after graduation. She attended that century wedding without an invitation, in the name of a classmate. As it turned out, the wedding had already begun. Martina still hadn't shown up. Anthony went crazy, made 99 phone calls, only to receive a message from Martina saying she didn't want to get married so early and had already gone abroad. Anthony's patience finally ran out that day. He no longer indulged her unreasonable behavior and directly picked up the microphone. Today, Anthony, have decided to choose a different bride. Is there any single lady interested? The usually quiet and inconspicuous Miranda felt her heart racing in that moment. She knew too many people liked Anthony, so the instant his words fell, she immediately stood up. That day, she put on the ill-fitting wedding dress and married the man who couldn't even remember her name. For the next 3 years, the couple treated each other with respect and lived peacefully together, until just over a month ago, Martina returned to the country. Miranda looked at Anthony, who was both resisting and unable to help moving closer to her, and knew that her grand dream was over. It was time for her to return the position of Mrs. Baron. To fulfill his devoted heart, and completely free myself. In the pouring rain, Miranda sent a message to Anthony. The document you asked about is in the drawer of your passenger seat. If you want to know what it is, just open it. It wasn't until half an hour later, after she had already arrived home, that Anthony finally replied with a single sentence. No need, if you're asking me to sign it. It must not be anything harmful to me. This means he won't read it. Yes, he's in a hurry to pick up the drunk Martina, so how would he have time to read it, even though it's placed right within his reach? The rain lasted all day, not stopping until the evening of the following day. Miranda had stayed at home all along, quietly deleting all the posts about her married life that she had shared across every platform. After clearing out her social media feed, she exited the app and immediately spotted Martina's newly posted 9-square grid. It was a series of photos taken while relaxing on a yacht, each shot perfectly angled, revealing the man's slender hand. Miranda knew it was Anthony, and she also knew Martina did it on purpose. But now, she no longer cared about such trivial matters. She turned off her phone, stood up, and went into the kitchen, planning to make a salad herself. Just as dinner was ready, Anthony suddenly returned. Looking at the cake in his hand, Miranda was momentarily stunned. Didn't you say you don't like desserts? Why did you suddenly buy a cake? Anthony walked over, saw her dinner, and slightly furrowed his brow. It's your birthday today. Did you forget? Why are you eating so simply? Miranda was stunned. When she was 4 or 5 years old, her parents divorced and left her with her grandmother. When she was 15 or 16, her grandmother passed away, and she had no one to look after her. Nor did she celebrate her birthday again. In the 3 years since she married Anthony, he remembered every year. No matter how busy he was, he would always come back to celebrate her birthday with her. When she returned from a long trip, he would worry about her safety and make a special effort to pick her up from the airport. When thunderstorms came, he knew she was afraid and would gently hold her in his arms. Miranda thought that these unintentional attentions and kindnesses counted as liking someone. Until the 1-month wedding anniversary, Anthony used company matters as an excuse to cancel the pre-booked candlelit dinner. Feeling lost, she was called by Lucy to deliver a coat to the bar, but unexpectedly ran into Martina. She was completely drunk, clinging to the person who was supposed to be working overtime at the company, refusing to let go. Anthony frowned, angrily pulling her away. Martina, don't you fucking lose it. Let go. What do you take me for? Some kind of toy you can discard and pick up whenever you feel like it? Martina simply wouldn't listen to what he was saying, stubbornly using those same hands he had brushed away to wrap around his waist once more, time and again, never tiring of it. Finally, Anthony compromised and admitted defeat. He stood there motionless, his downcast eyes filled with restrained affection as he looked at her, his tone completely surrendering. Martina, what on earth am I supposed to do with you? At that moment, Miranda let the bag in her hand fall limply to the ground. A flood of images rushed through her mind, the hands tightly clasped through the crowded streets, the umbrella tilted over her on a rainy day, the figure kneeling on the ground in a graduation gown to propose. Every single scene was proof that Anthony loved only Martina. She had witnessed those moments with her own eyes, so she could not deny this fact. Even after 3 years of marriage, even though she had become his wife, even though she had once received a little of his favor, she could not deny it. To be precise, Anthony's kindness towards her was merely something she had stolen from the temporarily absent Martina. She held on to this small bit of sweetness, thinking she had gained everything, but in reality, she had never possessed him, not even for a single moment. So when she saw the number 24 on the cake, Miranda felt nothing inside. She just politely bowed her head slightly and said thank you. Anthony lit the candle and smiled gently. Miranda, we're husband and wife. Don't say thank you, it sounds too distant. Make a wish. She nodded and was about to stand up when Anthony's phone rang. Seeing the faint tremor in his eyes, Miranda guessed who was calling and sat back down, and just as she expected, the call ended a minute later, and Anthony left, listening to the fading sound of the car outside the window. Miranda curled her lips into a bitter smile. The room was unlit, the flickering candlelight casting her lonely shadow on the wall. She clasped her hands together and made a wish for her 24th birthday. In this new year of my life, Miranda will no longer like Anthony. 3 days later, the class of 21 from the School of Computer Science held a reunion. Miranda only realized when she arrived that Anthony had also come, surrounded by everyone in the center. He immediately walked over and sat down beside her as soon as he saw her. Seeing the two of them sitting together, the atmosphere in the private room became somewhat strange. Miranda knew it was because of herself. After all, in the eyes of these university classmates, she married Anthony merely to climb the social ladder, so everyone looked down on her. But she didn't care about these malicious speculations. Sitting quietly and remaining composed, the class monitor, who arrived late, carried a large cardboard box and greeted everyone. I invited everyone to gather today for 2 reasons. First, to strengthen our bonds, and second, because it's time for that write a letter to your 5 years ago self activity we did back then. Let's take a look together today. In an instant, everyone rushed forward, creating a lively commotion. Let's make it more fun. Each of us will randomly pick one letter to read aloud. That sounds great. Let me draw one first. The most active boy in the class squeezed into the crowd and was the first to draw a letter. Urged by a few unaware people around him, he quickly tore open the envelope, cleared his throat, and unfolded the letter. 5 years from now. Miranda, how are you? Right now, I'm writing this letter to you under the sunlight. Although I don't know what scene or mood you'll be in when you read these words, I want to convey my current feelings to you. After hearing the first paragraph, the entire room fell silent, and everyone turned their gaze toward Miranda. Anthony, who had been playing with his phone, Anthony also looked up, turning to the person beside him with a surprised expression. Miranda, her usually expressionless face instantly tightened at the thought of the letter's contents. The boy glanced at her, then continued reading with a mischievous smile. This year, you're 19, just starting your sophomore year of college, and you've developed feelings for Anthony. But he doesn't know about it, and even if he did, it wouldn't matter because he already likes someone else. Your secret crush is destined to go nowhere. You might ask me, since it's destined to end without results, why am I unwilling to give up? What I want to tell you is that what I love is his youthful spirit that charges forward fearlessly amidst the cheers of thousands. His unintentional care when he blocked a flying basketball for me in the evening breeze, and his polite and sincere attitude even when he has to reject someone's confession. I'm the one who strained my neck from turning to steal glances at him during weekly morning assemblies. I'm the one who braved the storm to secretly put medicine in his drawer when I heard he got injured playing basketball. I'm the one who filled an entire night's diary pages with his name. Perhaps he will never remember me for the rest of his life, but that's okay, because having a crush is ultimately one person's internal chaos. After this letter was read aloud, the entire room fell into complete silence. Anthony suddenly stiffened all over. Suddenly, he remembered that wedding years ago that he couldn't bear to look back on, remembered the figure who resolutely stood up amidst a crowd of strange glances and walked firmly to his side. It wasn't until this moment that he finally understood why Miranda had married him. It wasn't to climb the social ladder as others had said, it was simply because she had been secretly in love with him for many years. In an instant, for some unknown reason, his long-dormant heart began to beat faster. On impulse, he wanted to ask all the questions that had been suppressed deep inside, but before he could voice them, Martina's call came through right at that moment. Anthony. I'm blocked by some thugs downstairs at the club. Before she could even finish her sentence, Anthony's expression changed. He suddenly stood up and rushed downstairs, and the moment he saw that group of blonde-haired guys, he threw a punch. Furious, he struck with brutal force, and within a few punches, he had them spitting blood from their mouths. A group of people who followed closely behind quickly shielded Martina behind them. She cried as she recounted how the tattooed thug had groped her hand. Anthony heard this, immediately picked up an iron rod nearby, and smashed it down on the thug's hand. A heart-wrenching scream of extreme agony pierced the sky. Miranda rushed downstairs and was met with this very scene. Staring at that blooded, nearly crippled right hand, she froze in shock. Instinctively, she looked up toward Anthony, only to see him shielding Martina as they walked away. The person who had just acted with ruthless decisiveness now wore a gentle expression, speaking softly to coax and comfort. This was Miranda, a level of care she had never experienced before. She lowered her eyes, concealing the emotions within them, and let out a self-mocking smile. Then she silently turned and went back home alone. It wasn't until the early morning that Anthony returned. Seeing her sitting silently on the sofa, he finally remembered he should offer some explanation. Miranda, today. They were all classmates. About Martina's situation, I couldn't just turn a blind eye. Miranda had no intention of exposing him. She softly hummed in acknowledgement, then took her pajamas and went into the bathroom. Half an hour later, she came out drying her hair, only to see Anthony holding her phone with a slightly strange expression. Miranda, why did you buy a plane ticket? Miranda paused for a moment, then quickly understood and took back her phone. I didn't buy one. It must be a promotional discount ticket message from the airline. Anthony wanted to ask more, but seeing Miranda's unwillingness to elaborate, he suppressed his curiosity. After all, Miranda would never lie to him, right? So he put down his phone, nodded, and went to wash up. Miranda stopped him, then took out the first aid kit from the cabinet. You've got a cut on your back from broken glass. Let me help you with that. Anthony froze for a moment, then obediently sat on the sofa, took off his jacket, and revealed the bloody gash. The injury wasn't serious, but since it was on his back, no one had noticed. Surprisingly, Miranda had actually noticed it. He watched her focused expression as she disinfected with a cotton swab, and it reminded him of that letter. Miranda, about that letter today, just wipe it clean when you take a shower later, or it might get infected. Next time you get into a fight, be more careful and try not to get hurt again. Because there won't be anyone to help you with the medicine. Miranda didn't give him a chance to ask, interrupted in his thoughts. Anthony didn't catch what she said at the end and looked up at the sound of her voice. What did you say? Miranda shook her head, tied the gauze, and turned to enter the bedroom. After she dried her hair, Anthony also finished his shower and came out. He proactively wrapped his arms around her waist, leaned down, and tried to kiss her. She turned her head away, avoiding that somewhat scorching kiss, her tone indifferent. It's my period. I want to rest early. Anthony did not force her further, tucked her in, and turned off the light. The next day was a beautiful day. Miranda was washing up when she heard a commotion coming from downstairs. As soon as she finished getting ready and stepped out, she saw Martina arriving with a group of people. Anthony leaned against the doorway, frowning, his tone reverting to its usual impatience. What are you doing here? Martina hadn't even spoken yet when his brothers. Martina said you were quite the hero yesterday, and she's very grateful, so she insisted on coming to thank you in person. Before the words had even finished, Martina magically produced a large bouquet of flowers and an exquisitely wrapped gift from behind her back. Anthony, thank you for helping me out yesterday. This is just a small token of my appreciation. Anthony did not reach out to take any of the items, but his expression softened considerably. Martina saw this and directly handed the flowers to Miranda, her tone not exactly polite. This is Anthony's favorite Juliet rose. Please help put the flowers in the vase. Hearing this, Anthony slightly furrowed his brow, his voice carrying a hint of coldness. Don't put your preferences under my name. Also, Miranda is my wife. Please don't order her around like a servant. The atmosphere in the room turned cold because of these words. Only Miranda remained unfazed, looking at the delicate rose in her hand. She learned its name for the first time. No wonder he spent a fortune cultivating this variety in the greenhouse. But she said nothing, handing the flower to the nanny beside her and giving a few instructions. Go and bring down those vases from the display cabinet on the second floor. Martina looked at her with a meaningful expression in her eyes. Miranda pretended not to see and took her breakfast to the balcony. Separated by just a window, she could clearly hear the conversation in the living room. Anthony, isn't this the paper crane I folded for fun in middle school? Why did you keep it so well in a crystal box? Do you like it that much? I'll give you another box tomorrow. How come this Barbie doll set is with you? I remember throwing it in the trash. Did you actually pick it back up? Oh, isn't this the maple leaf we picked from Cloud Mountain? You actually made it into a bookmark and kept it all this time. Listening to Martina's excited exclamations as if she had discovered a treasure, Miranda recalled the first time she came to this villa and had asked Anthony about the origins of these things. A small gift from my kindergarten cousin, so I kept it. She had truly believed his explanation back then, to the point that she overlooked the complex emotions in his eyes, those gazes filled with love and hate, reluctance and resentment. Clearly, they are all related to love. After making a fuss all morning, Martina offered to treat. Anthony turned it down with a single sentence. No need, please leave once you've had your fun. Martina acted as if she hadn't heard these words, pulling his hand as she headed toward the door. Several brothers, afraid he might not go, casually grabbed Miranda and went out together. The group drove to the hot spring resort. Miranda rarely socialized with them, so it was difficult for her to blend in at the moment. She didn't want to get involved either. Sitting alone in the corner, watching their lively scene of toasting and drinking, Anthony noticed her discomfort and took the initiative to walk over, intending to pour her a glass of juice. Just as she was about to take it, he stood up and walked straight into the crowd. Martina had just brought the glass of whiskey to her lips when he snatched it away from her. Then, a scolding voice echoed through the room. "You're allergic to alcohol, and you still dare to drink. Are you trying to kill yourself?" Martina blinked, looking at him with an innocent expression. "I thought this was juice, just a mix-up. Why are you so angry?" As she spoke, she casually took the glass of juice from his right hand, her eyes curving into crescents as she smiled. "Thanks." Anthony's hand involuntarily tightened, but in the end, he said nothing, turned back to his original spot, and casually handed over the cup in his hand. Looking at the unsettled person in front of her and the glass of clear yellow liquor, Miranda did not reach out. She picked up her bag and stood, her voice faint. "I don't drink, I'm going to the hot springs first." Anthony only then realized he had handed over the wrong cup. His mind was completely filled with thoughts of Martina. And he had actually given the wine to Miranda, mistaking it for juice. He wanted to explain about what had just happened, but Miranda walked away too quickly. He didn't get a chance to speak. The warm spring water relaxed Miranda's weary nerves. Leaning against the wall, she watched the continuously rising steam and gradually grew drowsy, falling asleep without realizing it. Perhaps having grown accustomed to the noise, she didn't hear the knocking outside. Anthony called her name several times without getting a response, and growing anxious, he pushed the door open and entered directly. Seeing her dazed state, his heart skipped several beats, and he quickly jumped into the hot spring to lift her out. Miranda groggily opened her eyes and instinctively wrapped her arms around his shoulders due to the feeling of weightlessness. Steam filled the air, their skin pressed close, and the atmosphere grew ambiguous in that moment. Anthony couldn't help but lean down. As their breaths mingled, a sudden set of footsteps abruptly intruded. Following closely, Martina entered and froze instantly upon seeing the scene, her smile vanishing. She bit her lip hard, her eyes filled with unconcealed shock and disappointment, then turned and ran away. Clutching her hand, Anthony stood completely frozen in place. His first reaction was to put Miranda down and run after her, leaving only one sentence behind. "She misunderstood." "I need to explain." "Misunderstood. They are legally married, so what is there to explain even if they were seen kissing? It's just that he has been immersed in the past, placing himself in the role of Martina's boyfriend. That's why he instinctively wanted to explain. For love. Someone who was once willingly tamed, how could they easily break this habit? Watching his hurriedly departing figure, Miranda smiled softly, then her eyes reddened. She draped a blanket over herself and opened the window for some fresh air. Just in time to see Martina rushing out, she flung the car door open and was immediately grabbed by the hand by Anthony. The sound of their hurried argument clearly reached Miranda's ears. "Miranda is asleep. I was just afraid she might catch a cold." "Do you have to get so angry?" "Yes, she's your wife. I have no right to be angry. Why don't you go back and keep her company? Why bother explaining so much to your ex-girlfriend?" "Martina, do you have to say things like that?" "What did I say? I'm only telling the truth." As soon as these words were spoken, the two parted on bad terms. Martina brushed his hand away with reddened eyes, rushed into her car, and sped off, left behind. Anthony stood frozen for only a dozen seconds before driving after her, gazing at the roadside, now quiet again and covered in swirling dust. Miranda silently turned and entered the changing room. As soon as she changed her clothes and came out, she was grabbed by several brothers who were stomping their feet in anxiety. "Sister-in-law, something terrible has happened. Anthony and the others have been in a car accident." When the group arrived at the hospital, they saw Anthony waiting outside the operating room. He was soaked in blood from head to toe, his forehead dripping with cold sweat, his eyes filled with panic and helplessness. Miranda, it was the first time she had seen him in such a disheveled state. A few brothers gathered around, pressing him about what had happened. He clutched his hair in remorse, his voice filled with indescribable pain. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have said those things to make her angry, and I shouldn't have let her leave alone. She was driving so fast because she was trying to spite me, and that's why she got into the accident." Hearing him take all the blame onto himself, Miranda, her eyelashes trembled slightly. Since those were all words spoken in anger, what is the truth then? Have I been waiting for her to come back all along, hoping to reconcile with her? Perhaps so. Miranda didn't want to think any deeper. The nurse happened to come out, her expression unusually stern. "The patient is bleeding heavily, but the blood bank is running low. Is anyone here type O blood? We need help urgently." The brothers looked at each other, but since they were all type AB blood, no one spoke up. Only Anthony was type O. He directly took off his coat, changed into sterile surgical scrubs, and followed into the operating room. Time passed minute by minute, and half an hour later, The nurse helped a pale-faced Anthony walk out. No one knew exactly how much blood he had lost, but he was completely drained of strength, feeling dizzy and collapsing into Miranda's arms. The nurse did not leave but asked again. The patient's condition is slowly improving, but we still need 400 cubic centimeters of blood. Can you contact any friends with type O blood? During the waiting period, everyone contacted people they knew, but no one with the same blood type was found. Seeing the silent atmosphere, Anthony was burning with anxiety and struggled to stand up. Just 400 cubic centimeters. I'll do it. The nurse, seeing his reckless determination, turned to him with a face full of shock. You've already donated 600 cubic centimeters. Do you still want to continue? His brothers also changed their expressions and stepped forward to comfort him repeatedly. Anthony, stop donating. I'll have my secretary check at the company to see if anyone with the same blood type can come donate out of kindness. Anthony shook his head, his tone full of stubbornness. Martina can't wait that long. As he spoke, he rolled up his sleeve, revealing the bluish needle mark. Seeing him push himself like this, Miranda finally couldn't hold back from speaking up. The doctors are still doing everything they can to save him. We can contact other hospitals to transfer blood. There's no need for you to do this. Anthony paused for a moment, ignored the words, and turned to leave. Seeing his resolute figure disappear into the operating room, everyone fell silent. A few of the brothers let out heavy sighs, their tones filled with frustration and disappointment. Anything related to Martina drives Anthony absolutely crazy. He once got into a fight over her and injured his leg, ending up in the hospital for 3 months, and even after being discharged, he still wanted to go teach that guy a lesson. You're telling me, back in high school, to win her favorite necklace, he made a bet to skydive from 5,000 meters. Midway, his equipment malfunctioned and he almost lost his life, and now he's risking his life again to save her. I actually thought he still had feelings for Martina, which is why I tried to help them get back together. But now, what a mess. They went back and forth, completely forgetting that Miranda was still standing right there. Hearing these stories from them, Miranda felt a sudden daze. Only at this moment did she realize how ridiculous the thought that had arisen in her heart was when she stood up on her wedding day. What later comer could surpass and warm a heart? Love is love, and not loving is not loving, from the very beginning. She had bet on the wrong thing, so now, facing this complete and utter defeat, she accepted it. It was unclear how much time had passed when the red light in the operating room slowly went out. The doctor pushed 2 people out, and everyone's hearts tightened as they crowded around. The doctor wiped away his sweat, looked at the unconscious Anthony, and sighed silently twice. Are they lovers? Such a devoted guy is really rare to see. Miranda was left alone at the end, gazing at the blinding lights overhead, and let out a silent laugh. It wasn't until noon the next day that Anthony finally woke up, groggy and disoriented. Before his consciousness had fully returned, the first question that escaped his lips was about Martina. Was her surgery successful? How is she doing? Has she woken up? Looking at his anxious expression, Miranda, who had stayed up all night, nodded, her voice hoarse. The doctor said nothing serious happened. Just need a few months of rest to recover. Hearing this, the stone that had been weighing on Anthony's heart finally fell to the ground, but he still couldn't rest assured, so he threw off the covers and got out of bed, saying he had to see with his own eyes. Miranda, no matter how they tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen. In the end, it was the nurse who happened to come in to administer and 4 who stopped him. Looking at the large bag of medication, a flicker of anxiety flashed in his eyes. His heart filled with concern for Martina. After pondering for a while, his eyes fell on the fruit basket on the cabinet, and he finally found an excuse. Miranda, yesterday I called Martina's parents. They flew back overnight and should be at the hospital by now. Could you take this fruit basket over to greet them and check on her condition while you're at it? Miranda stared at him fixedly, and only after a long while did she let out a soft She picked up the fruit basket and left the hospital room. Martina lived right upstairs. Miranda was about to knock when she noticed the door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, she saw Martina snuggling like a little bird in the arms of an unfamiliar man, her voice full of sweetness. Anthony, didn't you say you were going to take me to meet your parents? Why did you come alone? I did want to bring my parents, but you're not fully recovered yet, so the timing isn't great. I'll take you home with me after you're discharged from the hospital. Okay. Hearing this conversation, Miranda's hand suddenly clenched tightly. Martina is in a relationship and already meeting the parents. Just then, the doctor on rounds pushed the door open, startling the 2 people in the room. Martina looked up and saw Miranda, her face instantly changing. What brings you here? Miranda didn't respond. She placed the fruit basket on the floor, turned around, and headed downstairs. Martina dragged her still unwell body out and grabbed her at the stairwell. Are you planning to go back and complain to Anthony? Miranda turned her head, looking at the fleeting panic on her face, her tone icy. Since you already have a boyfriend, why are you still clinging to Anthony and refusing to let go? Upon hearing this, Martina raised an eyebrow, her expression quickly returning to normal. I just want to play both sides, manipulate them in the palm of my hand, and enjoy their affection towards me. Can't you see that? Do you have to trample on his sincere feelings for you like this? Looking at her indignant expression, Martina scoffed, her voice full of pride. I have what it takes to make them go crazy for me. Even someone as exceptional as Anthony is no exception. What's wrong? Are you jealous? Why not admit it openly? If I'm in a good mood, I might even be willing to teach you a thing or two. Her proud and arrogant attitude, wearing her pride as a badge of honor, left Miranda speechless. The silent response only made Martina even more pleased with herself. She sized up the person in front of her, her gaze finally settling on the wedding ring on her finger. You're nothing but someone who got lucky. What gives you the right to challenge me? Let me tell you something, I never actually went abroad that year. I just drank too much the night before and stayed up late with 2 seniors. So I couldn't get out of bed the next morning. If it weren't for Anthony throwing a fit and giving me the cold shoulder, you would never have had the chance to become Mrs. Baron in this lifetime. Miranda's long-suppressed anger finally erupted at this moment. She couldn't help but raise her hand and slap Martina across the face. It wasn't a hard slap, but Martina staggered as if struck by a heavy blow. Tumbling down the stairs, Miranda hadn't yet figured out what was happening when she was pushed aside by Anthony, who had just stepped out of the elevator. He strode down the stairs, his face full of heartache as he picked up the bruised Martina, his gaze toward her carrying concealed anger. She hasn't offended you. Why would you use such heavy force? Martina deliberately revealed the crimson handprint, crying pitifully in his arms. Forget it, Anthony. Probably Miranda is upset thinking I'm your ex-girlfriend. I don't blame her. Let's go. These words directly choked back what Miranda wanted to say in her throat. Watching his expression darken gradually, she knew any explanation would be useless now. In Anthony's eyes, this silence was no different from an admission. He looked away in disappointment and left, carrying the person with him. He never looked at her again. After leaving the hospital, Miranda received a call from the staff saying that the visa had been processed. She retrieved all her documents and began packing her luggage. The calendar on the desk lost a page every day, quickly nearing its end. This year was about to come to a close. She, too, was about to leave the city she had lived in for over 20 years. Throughout this week, Anthony had not returned even once. However, Martina would send many provocative messages every day. On the 7th day from the end, she sent a video showing Anthony kneeling on the ground, gently massaging her calf with the utmost tenderness. Miranda watched while throwing away everything she had bought for him over the years into the trash. On the 5th day from the end, she sent several photos of Anthony delivering a box of jewelry and personally placing a ring on her finger. Miranda casually smashed the wedding photo into pieces and threw it into the fire. On the 3rd to last day, there was a recording, Anthony murmuring her name in his sleep, his tone sincere and heartfelt. Miranda packed up all the gifts he had given her after their marriage and sent them to a charity. The villa, once regarded by her as a home, gradually became empty, and her few belongings were gradually packed up. The servants at home, seeing this scene of cutting ties and letting go, were somewhat worried and had asked her several times what had happened. She smiled, her tone very light. Just getting a divorce, that's all, sir. Agreed. Miranda didn't know, but she thought, if Anthony saw that divorce agreement now, he would probably be very happy. After all, his heart and eyes were now completely filled with Martina. On the 2nd to last day, Martina sent another message. This time, the camera wasn't aimed at Anthony, but at his parents. Looking at the photo of the 3 people smiling and chatting around the hospital bed, Miranda felt completely unmoved. She still didn't reply to the message, but instead opened her contacts and deleted Martina, Anthony, and everyone connected to them. On the day she left, the first snow fell. Miranda brought the diaries she had organized last night and the unsent love letters to the courtyard. The orange firelight illuminated her face, and burned to ashes all those recorded thoughts and feelings of a young girl's heart. She lifted her head, watching the swirling snowflakes, wondering how much longer it would snow to cover up these ashes. Just as she was lost in thought, the tightly shut door suddenly swung open. Anthony, whom she hadn't seen in a long time, had returned. His steps hurried. He glanced at the person crouching on the ground, then went straight into the living room first. When he came out again, he stopped beside Miranda, looking at those pale pink envelopes. He couldn't help but recall the letter from the party. The heart that had been angry for so long finally began to soften. I've been busy lately. Let's wait a couple of days until I'm done with my work. Then we can have a proper talk. What to talk about? Divorce. Miranda smiled, looked up at him, her voice utterly calm. Let's not talk anymore. The thing you wanted most. I actually gave it to you a month ago. Things. What is it? Anthony was just about to ask when his phone rang a few times. He opened the messages and saw them. A smile touching the corners of his eyes and brows. Watching his expression, Miranda tossed the last few love letters into the fire and stood up. Her flowing skirt blocked the burning flames behind her. Anthony finished replying to the messages just as the love letters finished burning, and he forgot what he had wanted to ask a moment ago. Miranda personally saw him to the door and opened the car door for him. A cold wind blew. Anthony noticed she was lightly dressed and gently urged her to go back inside so she wouldn't catch cold. Miranda insisted on staying at the door to see him off. Through the car window, Anthony saw her raise her hand to wave and softly say something. He didn't catch it clearly, but it was likely just the usual advice like be careful on the road. Over the past 3 years, he had heard it countless times, so he didn't take it to heart. After the vehicle started, it soon disappeared from sight. Miranda stood alone in the snow for a long time before returning to the bedroom to put on her coat, then went downstairs carrying her suitcase. The snow fell heavier and heavier, each flake landing on her head, making her look as if her hair had turned white from a distance. A taxi stopped at the villa's entrance. Before getting in, she turned around for one last look and repeated those barely audible words once more. Farewell, City J. Goodbye forever, Anthony. Anthony drove straight to the hospital. Today was Martina's discharge day. Last night she insisted on wanting to see childhood photos, which was why he had made a special trip back to retrieve them. Carrying the heavy bag, he brushed past a stranger at the elevator entrance. From this person, he caught a faint, familiar scent of perfume. It was Martina's favorite perfume. Had this person just come out of her hospital room? Was he one of her friends? Anthony felt a slight doubt in his heart. But the elevator soon arrived, and without giving it much thought, he pressed the button for the 7th floor. As soon as she saw him, Martina beamed with a radiant smile. The two of them flipped through the photo album while reminiscing about the past. When it comes to childhood memories, Anthony quickly puts everything else out of his mind. By noon, Martina's family came to pick Martina up from the hospital, and as soon as they saw him, they immediately expressed their gratitude. Anthony hastily returned the courtesy, his tone exceedingly humble. Martina's injury is partly my responsibility. Taking care of her is my duty. Upon hearing this, Martina gently patted his hand. I've already said, my injury has nothing to do with you, Anthony. Yesterday I even asked your uncle and aunt to come explain what happened. Please stop taking all the blame on yourself. Okay, Father Sue nodded in agreement upon hearing this. Over these years, your aunt and I have been so busy with work. If it weren't for you taking care of Martina, who knows how wild she would have become? It's us who should be thanking you. Martina walked over to Anthony and was about to act coquettishly when Martina's mom pulled her back. Now that you're older and have started your own family, Martina still doesn't understand boundaries and keeps clinging to you. Please don't mind her. We'll properly educate her so she won't bother you in the future. The atmosphere in the hospital room instantly froze. Anthony understood the underlying message. His breathing faltered for a moment, then quickly returned to normal. The smile that had been hanging at the corner of his lips vanished, leaving only restraint and politeness. Martina's expression changed as well, but she pretended not to understand what her mother was saying and turned to Anthony with a cheerful laugh, trying to change the subject. All right, I grew up with Anthony, so there's no need to talk about trouble. He even promised to take me home, right? Anthony looked up to answer, but when he met the meaningful gazes of the two elders, the words on the tip of his tongue changed their meaning. I did promise, but my secretary just informed me that there's something urgent at the company. Since you're here now, uncle and aunt, I won't disturb you any further. After saying this, he didn't linger any longer and turned to leave the hospital room. After walking only a few steps, Martina's mom called out to him and handed over that photo album. Anthony, in the past, it was Martina who wronged you, but she was young back then and didn't yet understand how precious sincerity is. Please don't hold it against her. Seeing the apologetic expression on the face of this elder who had watched him grow up, Anthony gently shook his head. Auntie, I've already let go of those past matters. I won't hold any grudge against Martina. So please don't worry. Martina's mom sighed and looked at him with regret in her eyes. It was Martina who was unfortunate, and it was also fate that you two were not meant to be husband and wife. I heard from your mother that the girl you married is very filial and sensible, and you have a good relationship with her. You should cherish her well. She is the one worth your heartfelt devotion, the one who will grow old with you. Anthony knew that Martina's mom meant well. He also understood that his story with Martina had ended long ago. At that wedding, When he stubbornly decided to marry someone else, over the past 3 years, he had tried to forget the past and live a good life with Miranda. But after all, she was someone he had loved for 18 years. How could he just let go so easily? So when Martina returned to the country and repeatedly pestered him, he ultimately softened. Even if they couldn't be lovers, the bond of friendship still remained. With this thought in mind, he indulged himself, going to her side again and again. To be honest, Martina's tearful declarations of still loving him did touch his heart each time, but those moments, like ripples stirred by the wind on a lake, soon vanished without a trace. He would always, at the brink of falling, remember that Miranda was his wife. Time and again, he felt as if he were lost in a fog, unable to find a way out. Upon hearing these words, it was as if he had been enlightened. And he slowly began to regain his clarity, recalling the sight of him disappearing into the heavy snow that morning. Anthony felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He bowed deeply to Martina's mom with utmost sincerity in his voice. "Thank you for taking the trouble to tell me this. I understand." After leaving the hospital, Anthony went back to the old house. Anthony's mom called him into the study, her tone unusually serious. "When you first got married, I did feel that Miranda's family background wasn't a good match for you, so I had some reservations about her. But over these past 3 years, seeing how much she cares for you, keeps the household in perfect order, and takes such good care of us too, I've gradually let go of those grudges. You're not young anymore, and there are some things I don't want to repeat. Let bygones be bygones, and don't dwell on the past anymore. You have good taste, you've chosen a wonderful wife. It's time to settle down and live your life well. Marriage isn't like dating, it's a bowl of porridge that simmers slowly, requiring patience and steady effort. You and Miranda didn't have much emotional foundation before marriage, and you're both so young. It's important to communicate clearly and in a timely manner to avoid misunderstandings piling up in your hearts. Do you understand?" Anthony didn't expect his usually quiet mother to speak so earnestly about these everyday family matters. But he knew his mother was right and respectfully lowered his head. "You're right, I know what to do now." Anthony's mom nodded with relief, then took out a box and pushed it over. "This is the bracelet your grandmother gave me when I got married. Please give it to Miranda. The day after tomorrow is your father's birthday. Remember to bring her back so our whole family can have a simple meal together." Anthony opened the box and stared at the pair of imperial green jade bracelets inside. Momentarily stunned, suddenly, he remembered that wedding 3 years ago that had stirred up quite a storm. Martina, after announcing over the phone to the entire venue that she was cancelling the wedding, the relatives and friends from both families immediately changed their expressions and left the scene. He stood alone at the center of the stage, picked up the microphone with a heart as dead as ashes, and poured out all the emotions that had been pent up inside him for so long. To be honest, he didn't even know exactly what he had said. It wasn't until Miranda stood up, was pushed backstage by his impatient groomsmen, and returned to his line of sight that he finally snapped out of his daze. The wedding march began to play. She had changed into that slightly oversized wedding dress, taking one step after another, walking resolutely to his side. Together with him, they endured the prying eyes of thousands of onlookers below, fearless and never retreating. Perhaps infected by her unwavering determination, Anthony felt a surge of desperate courage rekindling in his once lifeless heart. Although he still didn't know his bride's name, he had already resolved to treat the woman who wore his ring with kindness for the rest of his life. "I will never let down the hand she extended to him during the darkest moment of his life." Anthony placed the box containing the bracelet into the drawer of the passenger seat, before closing the drawer. He noticed the document inside and paused to think about when it had been placed there, but after racking his brain, he still couldn't recall. He was just about to take it out and have a look when he received a call from Martina. "Anthony, my parents have left. My friend heard I was discharged and wants to celebrate for me. Are you done with your work? Do you want to come over and hang out together?" This time, Anthony didn't hesitate and directly refused. Martina's tone immediately became dejected, just as she was about to act coquettish. He made up an excuse about having a meeting to attend. After hanging up the phone, he pushed the drawer shut, got in the car, and drove home. The usually lively villa was unusually quiet today. Anthony looked around and noticed that many things were missing from the living room: the tie he had left on the coffee table months ago, the water glass on the dining table, the throw pillows on the sofa. They are all Miranda's little insignificant purchases. In the past, he wouldn't have noticed, but for some reason, this time he keenly sensed something was off and stopped the butler to ask, "Why are so many things missing from the house?" "The madam has thrown them all away." The elderly butler respectfully replied, then looked up at his expression and hesitantly spoke. "Sir, are you really going to divorce Madam?" "Anthony, I knew you'd be home in this heavy snow. It's been so long since you've hung out with the brothers. Come on, let's go have some drinks. Several young masters entered with arms around each other's shoulders, pulling Anthony and dragging him outside without another word. The word marriage that hadn't yet been spoken was thus drowned out in the clamor of voices. Although it was supposed to be a drinking session, the brothers, concerned about Anthony's health, only dared to offer him a few cups of plain water. Watching the few people playing games, he took a couple of sips, then took out his phone, found Miranda, and typed out a message. Did you have to go out today? Where did you go? What time will you be back? Send me the address, I'll come pick you up later. The roads are slippery with snow, be careful walking and don't fall. Before the send button could be pressed, the brother who had just finished his phone call beside him suddenly changed his expression. He grabbed Anthony and called out to the others at the table, his tone urgent and rushed. Let's go, change of plans. There's something new and exciting to see. Everyone was left confused by his abrupt and disjointed words. Hearing that there was something exciting going on, everyone got excited and squeezed into the car together. Along the way, everyone kept asking where they were going, but he didn't say a word, only occasionally glancing at Anthony. Their destination was a bar they had never been to before. Just before getting off the car, this buddy pushed Anthony to the front and said some strange things. Anthony, there were some things I'd heard rumors about long ago, but I only decided to tell you when it was absolutely confirmed. If you see something later, don't blame me, brother. I'm really doing this for your own good. They were all close brothers who grew up together, so when they heard him speak in such a serious tone, Anthony slowly wiped the smile off his face. He looked at the door right in front of him, hesitated, and raised his hand. As soon as the door was pushed open, the scene inside the bar was completely exposed before everyone. In the dazzling, vibrant hall filled with colorful lights and intoxicating atmosphere, everyone was immersed in the deafening beats of the DJ's music. The white spotlight shone down, clearly illuminating the couple passionately kissing at the center of the stage. Although there was some distance between them, Anthony spotted Martina at a glance. She was tightly embraced by the man in front of her, her face flushed with an unnatural redness, her hands continuously teasing and caressing behind the man's back. She looked nothing like the usual whimsical, willful, and unrestrained young lady. It was as if she were a completely different person. For a moment, the 7 or 8 people standing at the door fell into silence. In stark contrast to this quiet, the clamor in the hall grew increasingly fervent. Holy crap. Going this hard right after being discharged from the hospital. They've been kissing for half an hour already. Won't they run out of breath? What's wrong with a couple kissing when they're feeling the chemistry? Are you jealous? Don't even mention it. Martina has been with this boyfriend for half a year now, and she's not tired of him yet. How long do you think this one will last? Will it surpass Anthony? Don't even try to figure out Martina's thoughts. She's just playing around. Look at Anthony. She dumped him 3 years ago. But when she's in the mood, doesn't she still toy with him like playing with a dog? Hearing Martina's friend speak so bluntly, the brothers' tempers flared up instantly. They couldn't swallow this insult and pushed through the crowd to charge inside. One went to turn off the music, another to switch on the lights, while the rest jumped onto the stage and surrounded the two who were locked in an inseparable kiss. This sudden turn of events shattered the lively atmosphere of the scene. Snapping back to reality, Martina looked at the few people who had barged in at some point, her expression turning extremely unpleasant. After glancing around the room and not seeing Anthony, she breathed a slight sigh of relief, then turned a cold face towards these ill-intentioned people. How did you know about this place? I didn't invite you. What are you doing here? The group was already furious, and upon hearing this, they immediately started arguing with her. It's just a bar. You can come, but we can't. Do we need your invitation? What, are you on your honeymoon here with your new boyfriend? Afraid we'll see and snitch on you. Martina didn't want to lose face in front of her friends and boyfriend, so in a moment of heated impulse, she snapped back. Afraid? What am I afraid of? I'm just dating someone. Am I supposed to be afraid Anthony would find out? He's a married man. Does he think he can still control his ex-girlfriend's freedom to date? As soon as these words were spoken, the brothers all started clapping and whistling, seeing them laugh instead of getting angry. Martina felt her heart sink. She sensed that something was wrong and was about to ask for an explanation, but the brothers spoke up first. After pretending for so long to be the lovesick woman who can't let go, you've finally shown your true colors and stopped acting. Martina, you've been dating another man for half a year. Why are you still eyeing the pot while eating from the bowl and trying to mess with Anthony? Hearing this, Martina's boyfriend also realized something was wrong. His face darkening. Martina hadn't expected such a thing to happen today. She knew things were about to blow up, and with a surge of determination, she started speaking without thinking. Wasn't he the one desperately begging to get back together? I'm sick to death of him. Why would I ever provoke him? He's been clinging to me like a sticky leech. Impossible to shake off. I was already tired of him 3 years ago. That's why I deliberately stood him up at the altar. It had nothing to do with going abroad. The only one I like now is Anthony. These are all your true feelings, right? Faced with the stern questioning from several people, Martina didn't want to show any weakness either. She lifted her chin high, like a proud peacock. Of course, even if Anthony himself were here, I'd tell the exact same truth without changing a single word. With that assurance, no one else spoke. The brothers tacitly took a few steps back, clearing a path. Watching their synchronized movements, Martina's right eyelid suddenly began to twitch. She tilted her head and looked at the familiar figure standing at the door, her previously restless heart instantly turning cold. The crowd that had been watching the excitement below the stage also turned their heads along with her. 3 years later, Anthony once again became the center of everyone's attention. But surprisingly, there was no expression on his face, none of the emotions others might have imagined. Anger, disappointment, pain, or embarrassment were revealed in the slightest. Yes, it's just the relief after countless trials and the calm after the curtain falls. Across the vast sea of people, he watched the person on stage whose face had turned deathly pale, the woman he had loved for many years, yet could never obtain, the bride who had left him alone at the wedding venue. At this moment, it suddenly became utterly unfamiliar. It was as if he was meeting her for the first time, yet he had clearly known her for 18 years. I listened to every word. Thank you for not continuing to lie to me, and finally telling me the truth, Martina. Amidst countless whispers, Anthony's voice was calm and indifferent. It didn't sound like a confrontation, but more like chatting about today's weather. The few brothers on the stage, seeing him like this, suddenly remembered the scene 3 years ago when Miranda first appeared before them. The exact same expression, the exact same tone, the exact same number of words. I am currently single, and if you have no objections, I can become your bride, Anthony. After calmly announcing this to the entire room, Anthony lowered his eyes, a faint smile curling at the corners of his mouth. He also remembered Miranda. Only now did he finally understand the immense pressure under which Miranda had stood by his side that day. Such a cautious and quiet person, for his sake, could go to such lengths. Yet it took him 3 years to finally see the magnitude and fervor of her love. Fortunately, it's not too late for everything. Anthony no longer wasted time on these unworthy matters. He turned around and left without hesitation. Step by step, he walked with unwavering determination. After returning to the car, Anthony opened his phone and sent the message that hadn't been sent yet. With a ding, he thought Miranda had replied instantly, and lowered his eyes. Amidst a sea of white and green, that red exclamation mark stood out conspicuously. He stared at the friend request verification prompt below, blinking rapidly a few times. The note in the center of the screen and the profile picture on the left, both were confirmed to be correct. It was Miranda herself. But why would she block and delete me for no reason? Anthony couldn't figure it out. He sent a few more messages, but he was still blocked. His heart, which had been as still as stagnant water, began to ripple with countless waves. Reason told him that something must have happened, yet emotion was desperately suppressing reason, trying to calm him down with other explanations. This morning, she had seen him off just like before. Her expression seemed perfectly normal, and she even waved goodbye to him. Maybe she was just running late. Anthony desperately tried to psyche himself up, but the speed at which he raced away, flooring the accelerator, betrayed his panicked heart. He ran through 10 red lights in a row before finally making it home before dark. The house was just as he had left it, still cold and empty. Desolate, it didn't feel like the home it once was. Seeing the kitchen light on, he thought Miranda was inside brewing hangover soup and rushed straight in. There was indeed soup simmering on the stove, but it was the nanny watching over it. Upon seeing him, she quickly bowed in greeting, then flusteredly poured a bowl of soup and handed it to him. Anthony didn't drink, or perhaps just took a slight sip. The hot soup entered his mouth, but it wasn't the taste he was accustomed to. Anthony frowned. Isn't this hangover soup prepared by my wife? The little nanny's clear eyes suddenly widened to their fullest, and she flusteredly began to apologize. Yes. Sorry sir, the madam taught me how to make the soup before she moved out, but I didn't remember it. Please wait a moment, I'll make a new batch for you right away. In this sentence, Anthony only heard 4 words. Before she moved out, his pounding heart plummeted straight down into the boundless dark depths of the lake. When did they move out? This morning, after you left. Living room, bedroom, study, bathroom. Anthony searched every corner of the house. Anthony but found no trace of Miranda. The old butler, who had come at the sound, finally managed to voice the question that had been weighing on his mind as he watched Anthony's frantic and disoriented state. "Sir, why did you agree to divorce, madam?" "Divorced?" Upon hearing those words, Anthony felt as if the world was spinning around him. He had never heard Miranda mention this matter, so why was everyone convinced he wanted a divorce? He desperately racked his brain, trying to recall the events of this period in search of some clues. The strange behavior of Lucy in the cafe, the plane ticket he didn't have time to examine carefully, and those ambiguous words she said this morning. What he wanted had already been given to him long ago. Thinking of this question that he never got to clarify, Anthony grew increasingly anxious. While instructing his secretary to track down Miranda's whereabouts, he drove off to search for her himself. He first went to the old house she lived in before marriage, only to find the doors and windows sealed shut. The neighbors told him that Miranda had returned yesterday, discarded many belongings, and seemed to be preparing for a long journey. The next second, the secretary's message came through. "Mr. Anthony, I found out that Mrs. bought a ticket to San Francisco half a month ago. She departed this morning and should have arrived by now. So Miranda wasn't moving out, but had decided to go abroad instead." Realizing this, Anthony felt a chill run through his heart. He couldn't understand Miranda, why she suddenly wanted a divorce and left without any warning. Wasn't becoming his wife and standing by his side something she had always wanted? After having his secretary book a flight to the United States, Anthony returned to his car. He didn't start the car, but leaned back in the seat, staring blankly at the blocked chat interface. The phone, which hadn't been charged all day, issued a low battery warning. He opened the drawer to take out the charging cable. His gaze swept past that document folder. This time, he finally opened the document that had been stored away for a full month. At the first glance of the words divorce agreement, Anthony's hand trembled slightly, uncontrollably, but he remained calm, turning the pages one by one. Until the last page, when he saw his own signature written there, he froze completely. Why would his signature appear on a divorce agreement? Why did he have no memory of signing it at all? Anthony's mind raced, trying to piece together all the details he had overlooked and forgotten. The person who drafted this agreement was Miranda, and the only time she had asked him to sign it was one evening a month ago. At that time, she said she wanted to give him a gift. He didn't have time to read it, signed it, and left. Miranda left this agreement in his car and reminded him many times to review it. A whole month had passed since the agreement took effect, yet he had not opened it even once. Those dozen or so flimsy pages felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds in Anthony's hands. It was only at this moment that he finally understood why Miranda had chosen to leave. She sensed his wavering heart within this marriage. She thought he would return to Martina's side and divorce her. So she chose to leave first, and that thing labeled as a gift was this divorce agreement. She decided to set him free. She resolved to fulfill his long-held, unyielding devotion. When the plane landed in San Francisco, it was just afternoon local time. Miranda saw her long-unseen teacher, Nellie, outside the arrival gate. During her senior year of college, her professor left University A and embarked on the path of entrepreneurship. After 3 years of hard work, he successfully established a foothold in Silicon Valley. Miranda decided to go abroad precisely because she received a job offer from him. This outstanding woman, only in her early 30s, had always been able to connect with students effortlessly back in school. Now that she's entered the professional world, she remains just as approachable. The moment she saw Miranda, she warmly waved to her. "Miranda, long time no see." Miranda wheeled her luggage over, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Professor Yi, it's been a while. I've already resigned, so there's no need to call me Professor, if you don't mind. Just call me Nellie from now on." This gentle and cheerful disposition made Miranda, who was still not quite accustomed to the atmosphere of a foreign land, feel exceptionally warm. She didn't continue to stand on ceremony and simply called her sister. Nellie responded with a smile, taking her by the hand and leading her into the house. On the way back, the two of them chatted about many past memories, from amusing classroom anecdotes to farewell gatherings. There was much to reflect upon in that moment. "Miranda, when you graduated with your master's degree half a year ago, I invited you to come to the United States. But you didn't agree back then. Why have you suddenly changed your mind now?" Miranda's gaze froze for a moment before quickly returning to normal. She thought for a few seconds, carefully choosing her words before speaking. "At that time, I hadn't figured out what I wanted to do next, and due to family reasons, I wasn't keen on going abroad, which is why I didn't agree with you. But now I've come to realize that since I don't know what lies ahead, I might as well give it a try. Perhaps along the way, I'll discover a new ideal." Nellie, having been through it herself, understood that young people just entering society often feel lost at first. So she could empathize with her current state of mind and offered a few words of comfort. "Life is all about taking one step at a time. Look at me, I spent a few years teaching at a university before realizing that the ivory tower life wasn't for me, and then I decided to go out and see the world. How old are you? It's normal to feel confused, but as long as you take that brave step forward, I believe you'll find your life's purpose. With Nelly's living example right there. Miranda felt as if she had taken a calming pill, and her mind was much more at ease. After parking the car, Nelly took her back to the apartment. It was a standard 2-bedroom, 1 living room layout, facing south with plenty of sunlight, and there was a supermarket right downstairs. Looking at the tidy and spotless room, Miranda felt most of her exhaustion fade away. Nelly took her around for a tour, explained all the important details to her, and then took her out for a meal. After eating, the two went to the supermarket to stock up on some essential daily necessities. After seeing her home, Nelly didn't disturb her further, left her own address, and then took her leave first. Miranda took a shower, lay on the bed, and watched the sky gradually darken outside the window, suddenly feeling a sense of unreality. At this time yesterday, she was still in the villa in City J, wrapped in a blanket watching the heavy snow outside the window, and today, she had already flown to another city across the ocean, starting a single, independent life. The room was silent, lost in her wandering thoughts. She quickly fell asleep. Miranda had a dream. In her dream, she sat at Anthony's wedding ceremony. This time, Martina did not run away from the wedding and married him. She witnessed them exchanging rings and vowing to stay together for life. She left during the moment of their kiss amid the blessings of thousands, returning to the silent and quiet campus, where she buried herself in studies for 3 years. After graduation, she flew to the United States to start a new life and never went back. In this brief life, her only connection with Anthony was those 4 years as classmates. After that, they went their separate ways. She remained that unfamiliar female classmate whose name he never remembered. Perhaps the dream was too vivid, and when she woke up the next day, Miranda still felt a bit dazed. She couldn't quite distinguish between reality and the dream, and sat alone on the sofa for a long time. It wasn't until noon that Nelly's phone call finally snapped her out of it completely. Miranda, are you up? I'm downstairs at your place. Want to have lunch together? Miranda found Nelly's car in the parking lot. She opened the passenger door and, as she bent down, she vaguely noticed someone sitting in the back seat. Out of politeness, she didn't look closely, thinking she would wait for Nelly to introduce them. After sitting down and fastening her seatbelt, the person beside her remained silent, but a familiar voice came from the back seat. Did you rest well, Miranda? Hearing this familiar voice, Miranda abruptly raised her head. Through the rearview mirror, she saw a familiar face. It was Anthony. A day without seeing him, he looked utterly exhausted, as if he hadn't rested in a long time, yet the eyes that gazed at her were clear and resolute. For a moment, countless words rushed up to Miranda's throat, but she didn't know what to ask. In the end, she simply remained silent. The carriage fell into silence. A minute later, Nelly finally noticed the awkward atmosphere and quickly turned to look at her, trying to smooth things over. Miranda, this is your classmate, Anthony. Don't you recognize him? He called me as soon as he landed at the airport, saying he wanted to hang out. I thought since you're classmates, we could have a meal together. You don't mind, do you? Miranda minded, but in front of Nelly, who knew nothing about their situation, she needed to remain composed, so she could only pretend nothing was wrong, forcing a smile as she responded to her. Nelly, just go ahead with the arrangements. I'm just a bit dizzy from jet lag. Nelly smiled and nodded, signaling for her to take it slow, then turned to chat with Anthony in the back seat. Anthony, are you okay? Do you want to go back and rest first? We can meet up again later. Anthony hadn't slept for almost 30 hours, but he knew it wasn't the time to rest, so he gently shook his head. No need. Let's eat first then. I've already reserved a restaurant. You two didn't seem to interact much back in school. Yet fate still brought you together for a chance encounter in San Francisco after graduation. A chance encounter. Miranda, though she kept her head down, she could feel the burning gaze from behind. She knew that since Anthony had come, he was here for her. Baron's residence, the helmsman of the conglomerate, the favored son who grew up surrounded by flowers and applause, was actually served divorce papers by someone as ordinary and unknown as her. He must be harboring resentment. She closed her eyes, pressed her temples, and tried to get her mind working to deal with whatever might happen next. Meanwhile, the conversation between the two continued. On one side, it wasn't a coincidence. I came to San Francisco to handle a very important matter, so running into Miranda was inevitable. From his tone, it seemed like he was quite familiar with Miranda, but judging by Miranda's expression, the two seemed like strangers. This confusing relationship left Nelly completely bewildered. So, you're here to see Miranda, Do you two keep in touch often and know each other well after graduation? Not really, Miranda answered the question before he could speak. Hearing these two words, Anthony's gaze deepened considerably, and he pursed his lips slightly. After all, we were classmates for 4 years. Even if we're not that close now, with more interactions in the future, we'll gradually become familiar. By the way, Anthony, do you have any work in the US this time? Are you alone? Didn't bring your family. I heard you got married, and your wife was also our classmate. Hearing this, Miranda's heartbeat quickened slightly, and she unconsciously clenched her hands. After a long moment, she finally heard Anthony's somewhat hoarse voice. Yes, but not long ago, she asked me for a divorce. I came to the US this time to handle this matter. Nellie never expected that casual gossip would touch on someone's privacy, instantly feeling somewhat awkward. Miranda not wanting to continue this topic, she directly changed the subject. Nellie, are we going to a Western restaurant or a Chinese restaurant today? How much longer? I didn't eat anything after getting up today. I'm a bit hungry. Nellie gave her a grateful look and quickly picked up the conversation. The Western restaurant is just a few hundred meters away. Almost there. The meal lasted for an hour. Throughout the meal, Nellie acted as the intermediary, facilitating communication between both sides. Watching Miranda buried in her food, Anthony could only swallow down the questions that had been building up for so long. Halfway through the meal, something suddenly came up at the company. Nellie hurried off to deal with it and left first. The teacher-student dinner turned into a confrontation between a divorced couple. The atmosphere instantly froze. Miranda, after finishing the last piece of steak, Anthony timely handed her a napkin. She didn't take it, but instead stood up and pulled out a new one, her tone light yet straightforward. Let's get everything clear now. Anthony paused, his outstretched hand, meeting her gaze. Although only a day had passed, the person before him was vastly different from the gentle and meek wife he remembered. He didn't know whether she had changed, or whether he had never truly seen the real Miranda. Thinking back carefully, during their 3 years of marriage, apart from their intimate moments in bed, he had rarely looked at her face or noticed her emotional changes. She was like a pool of lake water, calm and unrippled by wind or waves, quietly standing in the place where he could see her whenever he turned around. Over time, he gradually forgot where this pool of water came from and why it had settled here without moving forward. Just as he had grown accustomed to it, the pool of water suddenly began to flow, irresistibly rushing toward unfamiliar places beyond his reach. He barely managed to catch up, only to be astonished to find that the water was not as tranquil as he had imagined, nor would it remain in place forever for the sake of his selfish desires, and all his previous perceptions were nothing more than his own self-righteous stereotypes. Faced with this brand new, never-before-seen Miranda, Anthony was at a loss, but he knew that her decision to divorce must have had something to do with him. So from the very beginning of their conversation, he sincerely expressed his apologies to her. Miranda, I'm sorry, over the past 3 years, I haven't fulfilled my responsibilities as a husband. I failed to provide you with a normal family atmosphere and neglected all that you've been doing all along. I apologize. Miranda knew that every word he spoke at this moment came from the heart, but she wasn't moved by these belated apologies. She understood that from the very beginning, her relationship with Anthony was wrong, destined to have no good outcome. To expect someone who doesn't love you at all to form a family with you and live together wholeheartedly for a lifetime, this was already an unimaginable thing, not to mention that this person never let go of someone else from start to finish. Miranda filed for divorce simply because she realized how naive and ridiculous her thoughts were 3 years ago, and she wanted to correct the path she had taken wrong. It had nothing to do with responsibility, atmosphere, or even effort, so she only replied with one sentence to him: I don't need your apology. Just submit that divorce agreement, then mail the divorce certificate to me. Cash on delivery will do. Anthony froze in place. On the flight over, he thought there was still a chance, staying up all night thinking about how to apologize and win her back. But only at this moment did he realize how resolute her determination was. Looking at her calm face, a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes, and his tone became much more urgent. Do we really have to get a divorce? Why? Miranda stared at him intently, her words clear and resolute, spoken one by one. I married you because I liked you. I want a divorce because I no longer like you. That's all there is to it. After leaving the restaurant, Miranda didn't go home. Instead, she went to find Nellie. Seeing her come alone, Nellie showed a hint of surprise on her face. Where's Anthony? After you left, he also went off to attend to some matters. I thought since I'll be starting work in a couple of days, I should come take a look around first. Nellie didn't think much of it, and since she had just finished her work at hand, she enthusiastically gave her a full tour of the company. After work, the two of them had dinner together, Miranda before she returned to her apartment. She opened her phone and saw a verification message sent by Anthony. Suddenly, Miranda recalled the words he had said before they parted. "Since you've made up your mind to get a divorce, I will respect your wishes. I don't deserve your affection and I'm sorry for letting you down. But after all, we've been husband and wife for 3 years. Even though we're separating, can we still be friends? Friends? What necessity is there for her and Anthony to continue being friends?" Miranda couldn't figure it out. In her mind, they should part on good terms and then never have anything to do with each other again. So she did not immediately agree to this request. It wasn't until 10 o'clock, when she was about to rest, that she noticed Anthony had sent another verification message. This time, with a note attached, "There are some terms in the divorce agreement that I'd like to discuss with you." When it came to the divorce matter, Miranda instantly approved it. Anthony didn't waste any words either. Directly marking the items that needed modification in red and sending them over, Miranda looked closely and realized he had changed the originally agreed property division to an equal split. In other words, after she received the divorce certificate, she would take away Anthony half of his assets. A sudden windfall came, but Miranda felt somewhat uneasy, so she simply sent a voice message. "Regarding the division of property, just follow the original contract. You don't need to allocate so much property to me according to the marriage law, otherwise I'd feel guilty accepting it." Anthony seemed to have anticipated she would say this, and quickly replied with a message, "I know you didn't agree to marry me for the money. The reason I revised the contract isn't to compensate you either, it's simply what the law stipulates. These are all things you rightfully deserve, so don't overthink it." Miranda explained a few more things. But Anthony kept responding with the same reasoning. She was tired and didn't feel like persuading him anymore, so she let him have his way. As the days passed, Miranda officially started her job and gradually adapted to the workplace life. A month later, she received her divorce certificate, along with countless properties, shares, and other assets. Looking at the endless zeros in her bank account, Miranda didn't know how to handle it. So she put it away as if nothing had happened and continued living her life. The harsh winter passed, and spring arrived. Miranda went to work as usual, and as soon as she arrived at the company, she was called into the office by Nellie for a meeting. The content of this meeting revolved around project collaborations with several domestic IT companies. During the meeting, an assistant needed to be selected to accompany Nellie back to the home country to discuss the collaboration. Her gaze swept over everyone and finally settled on Miranda. "Miranda, come with me." Caught off guard by being called out, Miranda was quite surprised. She had only been with the company for 1 quarter, so in principle she shouldn't be able to handle such important work, but since Nellie had chosen her, she had no choice but to agree. After the meeting, the two of them tacitly stayed behind. Nellie didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. "Miranda, although we need to discuss details with 4 companies during this return to the country, our focus should be on the cooperation with the Barron Families Group." Barron. Hearing this word, Miranda vaguely guessed something. She looked at Nellie, her gaze filled with hesitation. "Anthony." Nellie nodded, hesitated for a moment, but ultimately chose to be completely honest. "After our last small gathering, Anthony privately arranged to meet with me again. And the foundation for this project was laid at that time. He actually told me a bit about the matters between you and him. I felt it was your personal privacy, so I never brought it up. But this project has now reached its most critical stage. To ensure nothing goes wrong, I'd like to ask you to do me this favor: accompany me back to China to participate in the project discussions. I know this might be somewhat intrusive, but I hope you can understand." Miranda didn't really understand Nellie's meaning. As a newcomer who had just joined the company not long ago, with no significant background or connections, what use could there be in bringing her along on such an important project? Is it just because she is Anthony's ex-wife? Miranda could only think of this one possibility. But Anthony doesn't like her. He divorced her cleanly and hasn't contacted her since. Nellie, why does she think he would compromise for her? To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, Miranda was very honest and told the truth. "Nellie, the reason I didn't tell you before was because I was already divorced, and I felt these things were unimportant. But since this project is crucial, I'll be straightforward. Anthony and I were just a fleeting affair. He didn't like me, and we had no real marital bond. Our separation was amicable. From what I know, although he values loyalty, he still sticks to his principles when it comes to major right and wrong. If you think bringing me along to discuss the cooperation will increase the chances of success, I'm afraid I have to pour cold water on that idea." Hearing the description of this marital state from the other party involved, Nellie found it quite peculiar. She motioned for Miranda to sit down and couldn't help but ask a question. "Are you sure Anthony has no feelings for you?" Miranda nodded quickly. Seeing her certain expression, Nellie couldn't help but recall what Anthony had said before leaving San Francisco. Teacher Yi, Miranda and I are actually in a marital relationship. To be precise, we're currently divorced. I didn't do well enough in this marriage. She was disappointed in me, so she filed for divorce. Miranda's attitude was very firm, and I didn't want to cause her trouble, so I agreed. Personally, I do want to salvage this relationship. But I need some time to calmly think things through right now. Miranda definitely doesn't want to go back with me. Could I trouble you to take care of her for a while? To express my gratitude, I'm willing to discuss cooperation on the RO project with you, although it's been a long time. Anthony's utterly dejected appearance and sincere tone remain vivid in Nellie's memory. She found it hard to believe that someone like Anthony would hand over a project coveted by countless major IT companies to her, all for an ex-wife he didn't have much feelings for. But since Anthony mentioned there were issues between him and Miranda, she didn't want to speculate too much, only making a final inquiry about Miranda's opinion. Don't worry too much about the project. I'm here. The reason I want to take you along is partly for personal reasons, and partly to give you some experience. Just treat it as a regular business trip and handle everything according to the standard procedures. Alright, after spending so much time together, Miranda knew that Nellie was straightforward and wouldn't play tricks behind her back. Besides, this business trip was indeed a rare opportunity, and she didn't want to miss it for nothing, so after thinking it over for a while, she finally agreed. The return date was set for 1 week later. Miranda was busy with work while packing her luggage. As the day of return drew closer, her mood grew calmer instead. Looking back on the past now, it all felt like nothing more than a dream. Now that the dream has ended, she has completely woken up and will no longer cling to the past. As for Anthony, he has simply returned to the starting point, becoming just another old classmate and friend. She has already figured out how to interact with him when they meet again. Returning to this familiar city once more, Miranda's mindset has undergone a dramatic transformation. She pushed her luggage and walked out of the airport, chatting and laughing with Nellie. As they chatted, Nellie spotted her parents in the distance and waved at them. She introduced Miranda to her parents, and the elderly couple eagerly invited her to come home with them. Miranda knew that the family of three would have endless topics to catch up on and didn't want to intrude on their reunion, so she politely declined. After parting ways temporarily, she pushed her luggage out of the airport alone, only to find that it was raining heavily outside. There were no cars on the road. Just as she opened a ride-hailing app to call for one, a black car suddenly stopped in front of her. She instinctively looked up and saw Anthony walking over with an umbrella. It had been months since they last met, and he had lost a lot of weight, dressed in a dark green trench coat. He looked as slender and elegant as a bamboo stalk. Miranda didn't expect him to appear and was momentarily stunned. He walked straight up to her, his eyes holding a complex emotion she couldn't decipher, and spoke in a low voice. "Long time no see. Miranda, how have you been lately?" Miranda instinctively took a few steps back, creating distance between them, her tone indifferent. "Not bad." This cold attitude made Anthony feel somewhat disappointed. But he understood that all of this was reasonable. After all, they were just a divorced couple, so he quickly adjusted his mindset and looked at the suitcase in her hand. "The rain is too heavy. Let me take you back to the hotel." Looking at the ride confirmation on the screen, Miranda shook her head and declined his offer. "No need, I've already booked a ride." "Then take this umbrella, otherwise your luggage will get soaked." Miranda didn't know why he was suddenly so attentive, and a strange feeling welled up in her heart. "I don't need your help, nor do I think there's any need for us to remain in contact, Mr. Anthony, don't you agree?" This sentence pierced straight into Anthony's heart like a needle. His hand, hidden in his sleeve, trembled slightly as he forced a smile. "Just because we're divorced, we can't even be friends anymore." Miranda put her phone back in her pocket, took an umbrella from her bag, and watched the approaching car. "Before the divorce, we were just ordinary classmates. After the divorce, let's go back to that time. You and I were never from the same world to begin with, so there's no need to be friends." Every word was spoken without a trace of emotion. This time, it was Anthony's turn to be stunned. He watched as the driver helped load her luggage into the trunk, saw her open the car door, and watched her close her umbrella. Feeling as though something was gradually slipping away from him, he couldn't help but step forward. Grabbing the car door just as it was about to close, amid the rapid patter of raindrops, his voice rang out with unusual clarity and strength. "I don't believe we're from different worlds, Miranda. Perhaps you've heard countless people gossiping about your background, discussing your choice to marry me. But I want to tell you, I've never looked down on you, nor have I ever thought for a moment that you don't deserve to stand by my side. You've simply accepted what you have with grace and pursued what you love with courage. There's no need for you to belittle yourself. Having lived alone for almost 10 years, this was the first time she had heard someone say that. She tilted her head to look at him, a slight curve forming at the corner of her lips, and for once, she spoke to him with a smile. Thank you. After settling her luggage at the hotel, the rain had stopped. Miranda hurried to the restaurant with her bag and met up with Lucy. The two sisters embraced each other tightly and huddled together to chat about their recent lives. When Lucy heard that she had taken half of Antony's fortune, her mouth dropped open wide enough to swallow a plate. She suddenly threw herself into Miranda's arms, ignoring the strange looks from everyone around, and screamed uncontrollably, "Ah! My bestie is rich now. Oh my God, if I cling to your leg now. Does that mean I won't have to worry for the rest of my life?" Miranda quickly covered her mouth, apologized to the disturbed customers around them, and immediately took her to a private room. Only when they were alone, Lucy rolled her eyes and spoke in a low voice. "Has the money arrived?" "It did, but I don't dare spend it. It feels like unexpected wealth will always be taken back." Lucy couldn't bear to hear such words. Taking her hand, she began earnestly comforting her with well-meaning advice. "What sudden windfall? This is your legitimate income. Since Antony is being so generous, you should just accept and use it. Why feel embarrassed? It's not like you held a knife to his throat forcing him to marry you. That makes a lot of sense." Lucy, seeing her slowly let go of her worries, she cheerfully picked up the menu and, without even looking at it, slapped it right into the waiter's hand. "Give me one of each of your most expensive dishes, like Australian lobsters." After showing off her wealth, she felt satisfied and proudly began to boast. "How was my acting just now? Did I nail the vibe?" Miranda gave her 2 thumbs up, deliberately trying to tease her. "Pretty cool, but I wonder if our President Lin will still have the confidence when the bill comes." "Ah, Miranda, aren't you treating me? How about going Dutch?" After a satisfying meal, Lucy was content. Miranda looked at her satisfied expression and rang for the waiter. Just as she was about to pay the bill, a sarcastic voice suddenly came from behind. Well, if it isn't Miranda. The two sisters looked up at the sound and saw a group of people coming down from upstairs. Most of them were classmates from a university, crowding around Martina as they walked over toward them. Upon seeing them, Lucy leaned close to Miranda's ear and began gossiping in a low voice. "Miranda, the day after you went abroad, the news about Martina dating multiple people at once blew up. It got so heated because so many people were involved it even made it to the trending searches. I heard it was spread by Antony's friends. Ever since then, her reputation has been completely ruined." When she realized she couldn't cover it up anymore, she went back to Antony to beg for a second chance, but he totally ignored her. You should have seen her face, pale and green by turns, when he rejected her right in front of everyone. It was absolutely hilarious. Just as she reached the table, Martina faintly overheard them discussing her, and her face immediately darkened. She glared fiercely at Miranda, her tone filled with anger. "Miranda, didn't you go abroad? What are you doing back here? None of your business. What are you so proud of? Don't think that just because you're back, you'll have a chance to return to Antony's side. He never cared about you before, and he certainly won't now." Miranda didn't understand why she held such hostility towards her, especially since she had already divorced Antony, but she didn't want to argue with the group either. After paying the bill, she took Lucy's hand and prepared to leave. Her dismissive attitude only made Martina even more furious, and she directly blocked the exit. "You managed to take half of Antony's fortune by stealing my wedding, but you're just a calculating gold digger. Why put on an act in front of me? What good is that money to you anyway? Look at you, you can't even hide your tacky, low-class vibe. Don't let it stink up the place around me." A few lackeys laughed along when they heard this. An enraged Lucy stepped forward to argue with them, but Miranda quickly pulled her back. She looked calmly at Martina, her tone indifferent. "That money was given to me by Antony of his own accord, just like those widely circulated rumors about you, legitimate and well-deserved." After saying this, she didn't care what expression Martina was making, and dragged Lucy away immediately. Stung to the quick, Martina flew into a rage out of humiliation and pushed a passing waiter forward. As the oil-based soup was knocked over and about to splash onto Miranda and Lucy, Antony appeared. He immediately shielded the two girls behind him, and the sizzling soup drenched his entire left hand. The exposed skin was instantly scalded, causing countless blisters to rise, and his face paled noticeably. Martina hadn't expected him to appear here at all and was momentarily flustered. Quickly stepping forward to check his injuries, Antony forced himself to suppress the burning pain, gritting his teeth as he looked at her, his gaze colder than ice. "For the sake of your uncle and aunt, I've let slide all the things you've done, but if you keep refusing to change your ways, I won't mind teaching you a lesson." Martina tried to explain further, but Antony didn't give her the chance. He left immediately, taking the two frightened individuals with him. Chilled by the night wind, Miranda sobered up considerably. Seeing the injury on his arm, she directly took the car keys from his pocket. They rushed to the hospital as quickly as possible. The nurse was startled by the large area of the wound and promptly called for a doctor. It was getting late. Lucy had to work tomorrow. Miranda finally managed to persuade her to go back after much effort. Only 4 people remained in the emergency room. Miranda turned and looked at Anthony, who was trying hard to endure the pain, then took 2 tissues and wiped away the sweat about to drip from his forehead. He looked up, saw the guilt welling up in her eyes, and comforted her in a trembling voice. "I got hurt. And it has nothing to do with you. It's because of me that she holds a grudge against you. I should be the one apologizing to you." Miranda knew that in this situation, arguing over who was right or wrong was actually meaningless, so she said nothing and went to get the medicine according to the doctor's prescription. By the time she returned, the wound had already been treated. The doctor gave them many more instructions before finally letting them leave. Miranda drove Anthony back home, returning to this villa once again and seeing the living room layout almost unchanged from before. A flicker of daze passed through her eyes. The old butler, overjoyed to see her return, immediately came forward to greet her, chattering incessantly. "Madam, you've finally returned. The master has been waiting for you the entire time you were away." Halfway through his sentence, the butler spotted the injured Anthony and froze on the spot. "Sir, how did you get injured?" Miranda pretended not to hear the butler's words, handed over the medicine she was carrying, reiterated the doctor's instructions, and turned to leave immediately. Watching her retreating figure fade into the distance, Anthony felt a sudden emptiness in his heart. He desperately wanted to ask her to stay, but the words caught in his throat, and he held back. Anthony's hesitant, dejected expression did not escape the butler's notice, who grew increasingly anxious on his behalf. Without a second thought, he hurried after her, called out to Miranda, and poured out all the words he hadn't managed to say earlier. "Madam, since you're back, why not stay? Over the past 3 months, aside from work, the master has spent all his time in the room staring blankly at the flowers you planted before. Even in his dreams at night, he murmurs about wanting you to come back. Every week he flies to the United States just to see you, but he never dares to contact you for fear of disturbing you." The butler mentioned all these things, Miranda, but she knew nothing about any of them. She thought he had completely let go and had started a new life. Hearing these words, her first reaction was that it was absurd. "Anthony, didn't you only like Martina? How could he do so many inexplicable things for his ex-wife?" So Miranda didn't take these words to heart and very seriously told the butler, Anthony and I are already divorced, and I've let go of the past. The Barron family's affairs have nothing to do with me anymore. Please don't call me madam, from now on, just call me Miranda when we meet. It's getting late. I should head back now. Take good care of yourself." After a brief 2-day break, Miranda entered work mode. She followed Nellie to discuss the details of the cooperation and learned a lot of experience from it, and the progress of the project went exceptionally smoothly. Everything fell into place naturally without encountering any resistance. During the discussions with the Barron family group, Anthony himself did not attend, only sending the vice president to represent him. Miranda breathed a slight sigh of relief and presented the contract she had prepared in advance. After reviewing the terms, the other party showed a positive intention to cooperate but raised one condition. During the contract period, the coordinator responsible for communication between Party A and Party B Barron families group specifically requested Miranda. Nellie immediately guessed that this must be Anthony's idea. He wanted to use this collaboration to keep Miranda here. After thinking it over, Nellie still decided to ask for her opinion. So after leaving the Barron families group, the two found a cafe to chat. "Miranda, though it might be a bit forward, if it's convenient, could you tell me about the beginning and end of your marriage with Anthony?" Miranda remained silent for a moment, then finally recounted the entire story from beginning to end. 4 years as classmates, 3 years of marriage, combined. It amounted to nearly 1/3 of her life, yet when she spoke of it to others, it felt weightless, leaving no trace, as if she were telling someone else's story. The immense love that had once supported Miranda through countless dark nights had ultimately been worn away by time. Nellie remained deeply absorbed in the story long after hearing it. She didn't know what to say. Any words would have felt utterly inadequate at that moment. Only silence lingered, echoing through the private room. Looking at her expression full of heartache and regret, Miranda gave a light laugh, her tone carrying the relief of one who has weathered countless storms. "Nellie, I know you have concerns in your heart. You want to secure this project, but you don't want me to get hurt. The reason I'm telling you these old stories that should have been sealed away is to let you know that I've truly let go of it all. no matter why they made this request, in my eyes. I'll only treat it as a job to be done seriously, although I don't have much experience. As long as you need me, as long as the team needs me, I'll do my best to complete it and live up to everyone's expectations." Hearing her solemn promise, Nellie's eyes welled up with tears. For her, this project was the decisive move that would determine success or failure, so she spared no effort in trying to facilitate this collaboration, and the most crucial part of it all is Miranda. Although it doesn't sound pleasant to take advantage of this, her only option now is to use Antony's feelings for Miranda to achieve her goal. Fortunately, Miranda understands her difficulties and is willing to help her with this favor. 1,000 words couldn't express her gratitude, all of which finally turned into the sound of clinking glasses. At the end of April, Nellie carried 4 signed contracts and prepared to fly back to San Francisco. Miranda went to the airport to see her off, and the two hugged for a long time. Looking at the figure appearing not far away, Nellie couldn't help but ask a question. "Miranda, after all, it's someone you've liked for 7 years, now that he's finally clear about his own feelings, are you really not going to give him another chance?" Miranda knew that Nellie meant well and hoped she could find happiness, but only she herself could understand how excruciating those 7 years had been before she completely moved on. If it were merely a matter of unattainable desires, it wouldn't be so painful, just a bit of regret. But when she grasped the unreachable moon, believing she had caught the light, only to find it was an illusion of fishing the moon out of water, she no longer yearned for the sky. Some things are only meant to be admired from afar, so she only replied with one sentence. "Nellie, life cannot be repeated, we must all look forward." For work convenience, Miranda rented a penthouse apartment. The next day, a new neighbor moved in across from her. It was Anthony. During this month in City J, Miranda often encountered him in various places, by supermarket shelves, at hot pot restaurant entrances, in some corner of the park. Given his status, it wasn't appropriate for him to appear in these places. Miranda knew he had been following her. Occasionally, when they ran into each other, they would exchange a few words like ordinary friends. At other times, he would quietly follow behind. Like a shadow. Gradually, Miranda, immersed in her own little world, grew accustomed to it, thinking of it as having a free security guard without spending a dime. After becoming neighbors, the opportunities to meet gradually increased, and the smile on Anthony's face grew brighter and brighter. He would often take the initiative to invite her, asking if she wanted to go for a walk together, have dinner together, or go on an outing together. Miranda would always find an excuse to decline. Every time he heard the word sorry, his eyes would dim considerably. She had thought countless times that after this polite refusal, there wouldn't be a next time, but when they met again the next day, he had recovered, greeting her with great enthusiasm, watching him act so attentively, for no reason. Miranda recalled the days when he was with Martina during university. Back then, he was also like this, fearing the other person's anger and rejection, going to great lengths to please. Even to the point of losing himself. However, she wasn't Martina, who could comfortably enjoy these kindnesses without a second thought, nor did she have the strange habit of deliberately teasing him to highlight her own charm. She simply wanted to live each day well and enjoy life. Nothing more. Time passed day by day, moving from spring to summer, and then to late autumn and early winter. This nearly year-long project was also reaching its final stages. The contract's deadline happened to be Miranda's 25th birthday. She had booked a flight back to San Francisco for that day. The day before leaving, she was packing until late at night when she suddenly noticed light snow falling outside the window. Just as the clock struck 12, there was a knock at the door. As soon as she opened it, she saw Anthony holding a cake. He was clearly smiling and saying happy birthday, but Miranda could still detect a hint of sadness in him. She froze for a moment, then quickly regained her usual composure, politely thanking him. After the candles were lit, she clasped her hands together and made a wish. When she opened her eyes again, she saw Anthony's gaze, faintly tinged with anticipation. "What did you wish for?" "The same as last year." The conversation ended abruptly just like that. Anthony recalled what happened on her birthday last year, the smile at the corner of his mouth gradually turning bitter. Miranda lowered her eyes, avoiding his gaze. The atmosphere froze just like that. After a long time, she heard Anthony ask a very strange question. "Miranda, on the day you left last year, when you saw me off from home, what was that thing you said?" "I didn't hear it clearly at the time. What was it?" Miranda actually couldn't remember either. Those memories, tinged with a damp chill and too painful to revisit, had long been worn away and blurred by the passage of time. All she remembered were the vivid, bright years. Those scenes that warmed her heart whenever she recalled them remained as clear as if they had just happened, and as a new year of her life began. She hoped that everyone she would meet and everything that was about to happen would be fulfilling and complete, so she casually made up a couple of sentences as a response. Wishing you happiness, wishing me happiness too. When she woke up, the world outside the window had turned into a snowy wonderland. The snow was still falling. Miranda had just stepped downstairs when she saw Anthony waiting by the roadside. He took the initiative to walk over and reach for her luggage, his tone carrying an indescribable complexity. It's hard to get a taxi in this heavy snow. Let me drive you to the airport. This time, Miranda didn't refuse. She sensed that he probably had more to say. This departure truly has no return date. There are some things she also wanted to put an end to. After the vehicle started, it moved very, very slowly, whether it was because the road was slippery from the snow, or Anthony did it on purpose. But fortunately, there was plenty of time. So Miranda said nothing, quietly watching the scenery outside the window. As time passed minute by minute, Anthony could no longer bear the silent atmosphere of the farewell. He wanted to say something, suppressing his flustered heart. He also wanted to use this opportunity to move her, to keep her by his side. Miranda, do you remember our second Christmas after we got married? It was snowing heavily then too. My mother was in poor health. And when you took me to the temple to pray and make wishes, I drew a love fortune stick. It read, "May I win the heart of one person." Listening to his description, Miranda also recalled that past event. After receiving the fortune stick, the fortune interpreter looked at them both and said something very strange. A destined bond, a destined calamity. If one awakens early, it becomes the most auspicious sign. She didn't understand the meaning, thinking the master wanted to enlighten her. And she worried about this matter for a long time afterward. After all, at that time, she truly wanted to stay with him forever. But now, looking back, the one who drew the lot was Anthony, and those words were not meant for her. And the person he truly wanted to grow old with in his heart back then wasn't her either. Was it? At this thought, Miranda let out a light laugh. I don't really remember. Anthony was stunned for a few seconds, then immediately found a new topic. Most of them were the trivial daily routines after their marriage, some she couldn't even recall. Yet he described them in great detail. He tried to move her with these relatively warm memories of their married life. But Miranda showed no expression, seemingly not nostalgic for the past at all, and before they knew it, the car had already arrived at the airport. As she picked up her suitcase and was about to leave, Anthony called out to her from behind. He took out a box and handed it to her. His eyes filled with eager anticipation. Miranda opened it and saw a pair of bracelets. She remembered these were the bracelets Anthony's grandma used to wear daily, said to be the heirloom of the Barron family. Why was he giving this to her? If this is a farewell gift, it's too precious for me to accept. After being rejected once again, Anthony could barely manage a smile. His throat tightened several times, and a flicker of urgency crossed his face. Please accept it. This is my heartfelt wish. And my mother's as well. Miranda shook her head gently, her tone indifferent. I understand what this gift represents, and that's why I don't want to accept it. I've told you many times before, since the story has ended. Let's just return to our original places. Each word pierced deeply into Anthony. He stood in the snow, watching helplessly as she slowly walked away, step by step, without ever looking back. Only the snowflakes, falling one after another on his head, arrived as promised, offering him a white-haired old age that he had longed for but could never attain.